This podcast is supported by Progressive, a leader in RV insurance. RVs are for sharing adventures with family, friends, and even your pets. So if you bring your cats and dogs along for the ride, you'll want Progressive RV insurance. They protect your cats and dogs like family by offering up to $1,000 in optional coverage for vet bills in case of an RV accident, making it a great companion for the responsible pet owner who loves to travel. See Progressive's other benefits and more when you quote RV insurance at Progressive.com today. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Pet injuries and additional coverage and subject to policy terms.
Fellas, you know Degree Cool Rush deodorant, right? Well, last year they changed the formula, and guys were mad about it. One dude even started a petition. So guess what? Degree heard us, admitted they messed up, and brought the original Cool Rush scent back exactly how it was. And it's in Walmart, Target, and other stores now for under $4. So grab some and remember why its cool, crisp, and fresh scent made it the #1 men's antiperspirant for the last decade. Degree Cool Rush is back, and it smells like victory for all of us.
The Stone Zone, entertaining and informative
on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Welcome back. You're in the Stone Zone. Joining me now is investigative journalist Jason Goodman. Jason Goodman is the founder of Crowdsourcing the Truth, and he has determined that what we see going on with New York Attorney General Letitia James, the serial mortgage fraud at least, this is before we get into the question of her cover-up of sexual assault by her chief of staff. I'll be writing about that very shortly, as well as what I think is epic campaign finance fraud. But the media has been focused on the referral by the Federal Home Finance Administration to the Justice Department of Letitia James for serial mortgage fraud. But Jason, she's not the only one, is she?
No, she's not, Roger.
So let's touch on Adam Schiff. I spoke about this a little bit in the beginning, but then you had some groundbreaking information on both former federal prosecutor Andrew Weissman, as well as Congressman Jamie Raskin, two other virulent critics of President Donald Trump. Let's start with Adam Schiff.
Yeah. Well, Adam Schiff, of course, everybody knows, is one of the most visible enemies of Donald Trump. I'm surprised that a lot of people in the mainstream haven't really heard of Andrew Weissman, even though he was the lead prosecutor in the Mueller investigation. And, you know, he's one of these guys who's been kind of out of the limelight for most of his career. Anybody who does know him pretty much knows him from seeing him on MSNBC, and then he becomes like a character on a TV show, depending on what he says and how you think he appears on television. You like him or dislike him. But Adam Schiff, everybody knows. President Trump has called him watermelon head and pencil neck. I like it when Trump does stuff like that because it's a mechanism that he's using to embarrass Adam Schiff, who deserves to be embarrassed. But there's a lot of details to what he's done, Roger, and I'm happy to share them with you and your audience.
Well, we touched a little bit on it. It has to do with his Maryland home. Let's touch on that, but I want to leave enough time to talk about these other two reprobates. So run us through Adam Schiff and his residence.
Yeah, I mean, to summarize it in the simplest way for lay people and people who haven't studied the information to understand, because it is very dense, Adam Schiff, obviously everybody knows that he's a representative from California. So he purchased a home in Maryland that I guess would be his second home. But a lot of people, particularly those who have had mortgages, a lot of people know that you get a much favorable rate on your mortgage if the loan is on your primary residence. And this is based on, I guess, actuaries have figured out that when you live in the house, you take care of it. And it's just much more statistically likely for a loan to be repaid on somebody's primary residence than a secondary residence that they might abandon or whatever. So the thing that is so important about what Adam Schiff has done, Roger, is that we almost don't even need any more investigation or any trial because he's incriminated himself. He's basically taken out a loan for this property in Maryland, and he has signed the loan, sworn under penalty, that he will occupy the home and that it will be his primary residence within 60 days of executing this agreement, which is, you know, a 20-something-year-old agreement that he was lying about for 17 years, repeatedly making this false statement. Now, remember, you were talking about Letitia James. She's all up in arms that somebody who works for Donald Trump, not even Donald Trump, Michael Cohen, made payments and got involved in how these things were recorded as legal payments or whatever. There's a strong argument to be made that they were legitimate legal payments. He was paying a settlement in a lawsuit. You do that through your lawyer. It's different than going to the strip show and giving Stormy Daniels money. You're settling a lawsuit. But I digress. Adam Schiff, and he should know better because he is also an attorney, and that's critical, Roger. That's why this is the lawfare loan scam. So far, all the participants I've identified are themselves attorneys. And this is important for a number of reasons. First of all, they are making all of these filings and, including legal language. It's very unusual at times. That seems to be done by them. There's no third-party attorney signing in the fields where normally, if you or I were to close on a home, we'd probably hire a real estate attorney. I can only surmise that these lawfare criminals didn't want to do that because obviously it's much easier for two people to keep a secret if one of them are dead, or if the other person never knew about it. So I think they don't want to involve potentially legitimate attorneys in these transactions because it could be a stop to the flow of funds. But the thing that Adam Schiff did that I just don't see how he gets out of, he put himself into a legal double bind. Because if he was being honest in his sworn statements that he signed on the Maryland mortgage, that was his primary residence, well, then he's committed fraud in representing that he could run to be a congressional representative from California. And if he was being honest in his statements about running for Congress in California, then he's committed mortgage fraud. So I think he's in a lot of trouble.
Yeah, it's almost identical to what Letitia James has done. She's tried to lie her way out of it, but I don't think that's going to work. All right, let's get into Andrew Weissman because you really broke this story. Mr. Weissman bought an extremely expensive, condominium in Manhattan, but it was under very shady circumstances. Lay this on us.
Yeah. It's unclear if he bought it or if it was like a Christmas gift. A Hanukkah gift, because Weissman, he actually lives in sort of near the NYU area, the northern tip of the West Village. And he's a professor, everyone knows, at NYU Law. That's where I first confronted him about his relationship with Felix Sater, which is going to come up later in this investigation. Felix Sater, many people know, is a very long-standing FBI confidential human informant, signed an agreement with Weissman in 1998. And Sater has testified under oath that he's done all kinds of things. This guy's basically the Russian James Bond, but I digress. Back to Weissman. So Weissman purchased two condominiums valued at $7.5 million in the Tribeca neighborhood of New York, very exclusive neighborhood. He bought them from this guy named Leonard Toberoff. And the interesting thing about Toberoff is he was business partners with Jeffrey Epstein in the 1980s. And a lot of people who, and believe me, I'm not poo-pooing being skeptical. You should be. Let's take everything skeptically. But this guy wasn't just someone who happened to be doing business at Bear Stearns and didn't know anything about Epstein. Toberoff was involved in the Tower financial scandal, which was, people might recall, Stephen Hoffenberg, who was involved with the New York Post. Hoffenberg later was convicted and admitted to being involved in a $460 million Ponzi scheme. And Epstein had lied about the source of the funds for an investment that Toberoff, Epstein, and a guy named Niederlander made in a company in 1988 called Riddell Sports. So $1.6 million of that investment came from stolen funds. And so, this is Toberoff is involved in this deal and he just doesn't care. So, it's a little bit inexplicable why Toberoff would do that. Then he had already been involved with this thing called Penwalt Corp, some sort of takeover bid. And again, these are details that people are going to know a lot more about than I did. I just was researching this for background into this Toberoff. And these are all things that Charles Ortel has told me about over the years. Charles knows great details about each of these scandals. But the point is, this is not just some random guy. This is a criminal associate, an alleged criminal associate, I should also say. Everything that I'm saying is my opinion, and Roger Stone and ABC Radio don't necessarily endorse this. I am not an attorney. Nothing I'm saying here is legal advice. This is my opinion and information that I have gathered from looking at public documents. Anyone can get these documents. I don't have any access to anything secret or whatever.
Yeah, no, that's a very very key point. I've invited Attorney General Letitia James onto the show here at the Stone Zone at any time to respond to all of these allegations, and that is an open invitation. I don't expect that she will accept it, but I would be happy to have her on.
Yeah. Well, okay, so back to Weissman. Flash forward to April 2023. Okay. Now, this is the guy who was the head of the DOJ's Enron task force. He was the lead prosecutor on Mueller's impeachment of Trump. Let's just focus on Weissman for a second, because this is not, I mean, if I told you I bought an apartment and then I found out the guy was associated with Jeffrey Epstein, I'm a dummy who was running 3D cameras for Spider-Man for many years. I don't know who all the high-end financial criminals in New York City are, but Andrew Weissman was in charge of the organized crime division of the Eastern District of New York U.S. Attorney's Office for many years. In fact, deranged Jack Smith came up under Weissman in the Eastern District of New York U.S. Attorney's Office. Burl Howell came out of there. Loretta Lynch came out of there. It's a viper's pit. But anyway, Weissman, he buys this $7.5 million, they're adjoined apartments, two separate apartments, and I'm told it's unusual. I've never been involved in a deal like this, $7.5 million, two apartments. I'm told it's unusual for two separate real estate entities to be on one mortgage, but that's how this was done. What I found weird is you're buying something for $7.5 million, but the mortgage is only for $1 million. I mean, that seems crazy. Don't you usually have like maybe 20% and they give you the rest of it? This seems too low to me. But the other thing is, there's no record of where the other $6.5 million came from. Weissman gets this sort of fugazi $1 million mortgage from First Republic Bank 5 days before it goes into FDIC receivership. So it's impossible to presume that the bank didn't know that that was imminent, or that the DOJ and, you know, the Treasury Department, people knew that that was happening. And it just seems weird to me that a bank in such financial distress would be giving out $1 million loan to anybody, let alone one with such ridiculous terms. You know, average mortgage rate in 2023 at that time in April was like 6.5% to 7.5%. Weissman, it's a 30-year jumbo ARM. It's an adjustable rate mortgage that starts at 4.95%, but it can go up as high as, I think, 10% or possibly even higher. The thing that's crazy is 5 days later, when First Republic goes into FDIC receivership and $15.6 billion of, you know, insurance magic happens. But don't worry, Roger, they didn't use any taxpayer money. You didn't pay for it, but you probably did pay $9 for eggs, because the dollar is worth about half as much as it should because they keep printing more of them. But don't worry. It's all fine. Andrew Weissman got his apartment. So we don't know where the $6.5 million came from. That's quite crazy. He seems to have foreknowledge that the bank was going to collapse. And so when the bank collapses and the FDIC takes it over, receivership, whatever they do, it gets taken over by J.P. Morgan. And Weissman, because of this wonderful arrangement, he locks in his 4.95% rate for 10 years. So he's getting an amazing deal on the mortgage. But, you know, Roger, it's interesting because I started this investigation maybe about 5 days ago, and some of this stuff has been kicking around, and a lot of people have been sending me ideas, and something occurred to me. You know, it does kind of make you upset to hear about these connected guys getting good deals on mortgages, and we're talking about $7.5 million this and that. But specifically with, let's say, Jamie Raskin and Adam Schiff. Let's just look at that specifically for a moment.
Jason, we're going to have to come back and do that on the other side.
Sure.
If you're just tuning in, you are listening to the Stone Zone. I'm interviewing Jason Goodman, the founder of Crowdsource the Truth, and we'll be right back with the Stone Cold Truth. Whatever you do, don't touch that dial, because here we tell you the Stone Cold Truth. We criticize Republicans and Democrats, and what you hear about Congressman Jamie Raskin on the other side may shock you. Don't go away.
Parents of tweens, if you're familiar with far-off drop-offs...
Dad, stop, right here.
Or get DMs about what's for dinner, you may be experiencing tween milestones. For your son or daughter, these can start at age 9. HPV vaccination, a type of cancer prevention against certain HPV-related cancers, can start then too.
For most, HPV clears on its own. But for those who don't clear the virus, it can cause certain cancers later in life.
Embrace this phase. Help protect them in the next.
Ask their doctor today about HPV vaccination. Brought to you by Merck.
Are you a forward thinker? Then you need an HR and finance platform that thinks like you do. Workday is the AI platform that helps propel your organization, your workforce, and your industry into the future. Workday, moving business forever forward.
You need a vacation, so why not come play in LA? Fill your days with fun and let Los Angeles dazzle you with iconic landmarks, epic scenery, and stunning coastlines. And when the sun goes down, it's the perfect place to enjoy world-class dining and nightlife. Let play lead the way and soak up all this city has to offer. Start planning your LA getaway now at visitcalifornia.com.
Clorox Sentiva smells like grapefruit. Cleans like Clorox. And feels like...
Okay, we could be here all day. Try Clorox Sentiva for a trusted clean with long-lasting freshness. Also available in lavender and coconut. Use as directed.
The Stone Zone. Entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
And we're back in the Stone Zone. We're talking to investigative journalist Jason Goodman about the sweetheart deal that was gotten by former federal prosecutor Andrew Weissman. You remember him. He's the guy who covered up mob murders in Brooklyn, the guy who brought down both Enron and Arthur Anderson, only to have his convictions in those cases unanimously overturned by the U.S. Supreme Court. The Andrew Weissman who destroyed the cell phone memories of all of the Mueller prosecutors when they were under subpoena from Special Prosecutor John Durham. That Andrew Weissman. You may have seen him on MSNBC. By the way, he is the guy who ordered the FBI to storm my home at 6 o'clock in the morning when they simply could have contacted my attorney and told me to turn myself in. We know that because I was arrested at 6:06, and at 6:11, a producer at CNN texted a copy of my sealed indictment to my attorney. And while it had no court stampings or other court markings on it, if you looked at the metadata tags, it did have the initials of the man who wrote it, and therefore the man who leaked it in violation of federal law. That would be Andrew Weissman. But I want to wrap up with Weissman and get into Congressman Jamie Raskin. This guy is a real piece of work. And that story is even more outrageous. So, Jason, lay it on us.
Well, so exactly. I mean, with Weissman, okay, he's got this $7.5 million asset. We've been through that. And that's one method here. Obviously, if somebody could gift you a $7.5 million apartment in New York City, you're looking at maybe $25,000 a month in income or more. But when we look specifically at the case of Raskin and the similarities to what Adam Schiff was doing, it really raises questions, Roger, because there we have, those guys did Raskin did satisfy some of a mortgage. His goes back to a house that he had in the 90s, which is very interesting. And he's doing a lot of refinancing of it. At one point, he even gets into a $0 deed where he's transferring the property from himself and his wife to himself and his wife. I don't understand why he's doing that. I mean, again, these are complex criminal mechanisms, and I'm not a lawyer and I'm not a criminal, so I can't say why they're doing it. I'm just in a mode where I'm going through and I'm gathering the evidence. And the thing that strikes me as weird, just as an initial matter, because I started to break this down. You know, using artificial intelligence, I can do a lot of analysis of this data that I would never be able to do myself. And it turns out that in the case of Adam Schiff and Jamie Raskin, I found sort of the similarities in what they were doing. And it turns out that between the two of them, they were saving between $150 and $200 a month on their mortgages. And it just strikes me as odd that someone as sophisticated, these guys are both attorneys, they're both in Congress, they have very public lives. Why would they risk their reputations, going to jail, losing their bar licenses over such small beer crimes? There's no way. To me, Roger, this has got to be an initiation right into a criminal network that's involved in crimes so vast that the theft of multiple millions of dollars is, they just don't even have the bandwidth to think about. So that's what I'm interested in learning, is why did these guys do this? It doesn't make sense on its face.
I think the answer, we have about a minute and a half to go here, but I think the answer is they did it because they can. They did it because we have, until Donald Trump's reelection, a two-tier justice system in which Donald Trump is put through horrific trials on trumped-up, ridiculous charges in New York. But criminals like Adam Schiff, like Letitia James, like Jamie Raskin get sweetheart deals that the average person could never get. They violate multiple laws, but they are never held to account. Afraid we have to leave it there. I want to thank our guest, Jason Goodman. Jason, where can people find you on X, formerly known as Twitter?
Yes, the best way to follow me there is at JG, like Jason Goodman, _CSTT, like Crowdsource the Truth. JG _CSTT on X. Thank you, Roger, so much for having me on.
Thank you so much for helping compress so much complicated information into a short period of time. But it is a perfect example of what's been going on in Washington and why it is absolutely essential that we drain the swamp. Jason, thanks for joining us. And for all our listeners, until we meet again, God bless you and Godspeed. And thank you for entering the Stone Zone.
Thanks for listening to the Stone Zone with Roger Stone. You can hear the Stone Zone with Roger Stone weeknights at 8 on 77 WABC. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode, so you never have to wonder,
what the heck is going on here?